ever feel like someone's trying to, like, control your mind?
Yeah.
You know, like in those movies.
Yeah, like Inception and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that for decades, the CIA actually tried to do that? Like, for real.
It sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah.
But it really happened.
This is MK Ultra.
MK Ultra.
We're going deep on this one. We're talking about the CIA's clandestine mind control program.
Super secret. Operated for years, decades even. Totally shrouded in secrecy.
We've got some recently declassified documents, and these things are shedding light on some, well, disturbing experiments. We're talking real-life mind control stuff.
It's wild, right?
Oh, yeah.
These documents, like a lot of them were obtained through those Freedom of Information Act requests, you know, the FOIA.
Right.
They give us a glimpse into this, like, seriously dark chapter of American history.
So for years, people dismissed MK Ultra.
Yeah, just like
conspiracy theory.
Like a wild tinfoil hat kind of thing. But now, thanks to folks like the National Security Archive, who have been, like, painstakingly collecting and analyzing these documents, they've uncovered the disturbing truth.
So let's start at the beginning, I guess. I mean, where did this whole thing even start? What was the driving force, the reason behind MK Ultra?
Well, you got to think about the context, right?
Right.
Cold War, 1950s.
Yeah.
Fear of communism, like, everywhere.
Yeah.
And the CIA, well, they were convinced that the Soviets, you know, they were ahead in this, like, mind control research.
Oh.
They're like, we gotta catch up, man, gotta surpass them.
Like a Cold War mind race.
Exactly.
Wow. So this whole thing, this was all fueled by paranoia, by this, like, perceived threat of Soviet mind control. It's just crazy how fear can lead to, like, such extreme measures.
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
That fear, man, it birthed MK Ultra. This program was so secretive, right, that they even used code names.
Code names? What kind of code name?
Things like Bluebird.
Bluebird.
And Artichoke.
Artichoke.
To, like, hide the real nature of what they were doing.
So Cloak and Dagger, huh? Like right out of a spy novel.
Yeah, right.
So, but let's get to the heart of it. I mean, what were these experiments? What did they actually do?
Okay, so these declassified documents, they paint a pretty disturbing picture. Like, LSD was like a big focus.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The CIA, they were, like, obsessed with its potential, the potential to alter mental states, you know, like
make people more susceptible to like manipulation and stuff.
Exactly.
LSD, huh?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, I was reading about, like, the 60s, right? All that, like, counterculture stuff, the psychedelic exploration.
Yeah.
It's wild to think that the CIA
was doing that?
Was experimenting with it.
At the same time?
Secretly, yeah. At the same time.
Wow.
And it wasn't just, you know, in labs. They, according to documents, they tested LSD on, get this,
whoa,
unsuspecting civilians.
Like regular people?
Regular people. In, like, hospitals and clinics.
Wow.
Like, under the guise of medical treatment.
Oh, that's messed up.
Yeah.
To be experimented on without knowing, like, without your consent, man, that violates everything.
Yeah.
Like the trust we place in doctors and hospitals and...
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
They weren't just using LSD, though. Like, they explored all kinds of methods to mess with people's minds.
Like what?
Hypnosis, sensory deprivation, even, like, isolation techniques.
Isolation, wow.
They basically wanted to break people down.
Oh, wow.
Psychologically, and then, like, rebuild them.
Rebuild them.
Yeah, but, like, in a way that would serve their interests, you know?
Like, create the perfect soldier.
Yeah.
The programmable agent or something, someone who just follows orders, no questions asked.
Exactly. Control their thoughts, actions, maybe even their memories. It's chilling stuff.
Yeah. This makes you wonder about the people involved, right? Like, how could they justify this? Like, how could they just disregard human rights like that? Did anyone even try to stop them?
Well, the documents do point to one key figure. The guy essentially in charge of MK Ultra, a Dr. Sidney Gottlieb.
Dr. Sidney Gottlieb.
He was the head of the CIA's Technical Services Division.
So this Gottlieb, he was like the mastermind behind it all. What was he like?
He's a complicated figure, that's for sure. A brilliant scientist, clearly, like a visionary in chemistry, pharmacology. But he also showed this disturbing detachment when it came to, you know, like, ethics, the human cost of his work.
So it's like he just compartmentalized it, right? Like, separated the science from the human part of it.
Yeah. It's hard to say for sure, like, what was going on in his head. The documents don't give us the full picture of his motivations, but they do suggest that he believed that anything, even, you know, violating human rights was justified if it was for national security.
Wow, that's a slippery slope. So it's like he saw himself as a soldier, right? Fighting this secret war, and anything goes.
That's one way to look at it.
But surely he wasn't in this alone, was he? Like, there had to be others involved, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Lots of people. The documents show that. Some, maybe they shared Gottlieb's beliefs. Others, maybe they had doubts, but, felt like they had to follow orders.
It's a reminder that even in places, in institutions that are supposed to uphold the law, like the government and all that, there can be people who will cross the line,
Sadly, yeah.
Especially when they think they're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah, it's a danger.
Well, we've just scratched the surface of this whole MK Ultra thing. We'll be back to dig deeper into the specifics of the experiments, the lasting impact, all that. So stay with us.
Welcome back. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty of these MK Ultra experiments,
Yeah.
I think it's important to grasp the whole psychological vibe of the time, you know? The Cold War, it created this atmosphere of intense paranoia.
Right.
Fear.
Right.
Everyone was convinced the enemy was not only capable of mind control, but they were actively doing it.
Trying to brainwash us or something.
Yeah, basically.
Turns against our own country.
Exactly.
Wow. It really is straight out of a spy movie.
It is, right.
So how did this feed into MK Ultra?
Okay, so the CIA, they were obsessed with finding this perfect interrogation technique.
Okay, the perfect interrogation technique.
Yeah, a way to get intel from enemy agents, but without leaving any trace of,
Of course.
Yeah, coercion, anything like that.
Right.
They thought mind control was the answer.
Wow.
The key to unlocking this impenetrable defense.
So it wasn't just about controlling minds just because they could.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to find a practical use for it.
Totally.
An edge in the intelligence game.
Exactly. They saw mind control as a weapon, man. A way to win the Cold War without, firing a shot.
A psychological weapon.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's where the LSD stuff comes in, I guess.
Bingo. They thought, okay, we can use LSD to change someone's mental state, break down the resistance, and boom.
Make them more suggestible.
Exactly.
So where were they doing all of this? How do they even go about, testing this stuff out?
Well, it's kind of messed up, to be honest. Some of it was in, universities, hospitals, even prisons.
Prisons, seriously.
Yeah, and that's one of the really messed up things about MK Ultra, it blurred the lines.
Between, ethical research and, mad science stuff.
Exactly. The CIA, they funded research projects at universities, hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the researchers had no idea what was really going on, what the CIA was really after.
So they were taking advantage of, these institutions.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, using prisons as, testing grounds, people who couldn't really say no.
That's exactly what they did. Took advantage of, vulnerable people who didn't have a choice.
So basically they had these unwitting guinea pigs.
Pretty much. People who had no idea they were in some big experiment. Breaks all kinds of ethical codes, even back then.
It's just wrong.
It is. Makes you wonder about those institutions too, right?
Yeah.
Their responsibility to uphold ethical standards.
Especially when the government is involved.
Exactly. Big power dynamics at play.
So you mentioned prisons being used, and it reminds me of this one case. I think his name was Frank Olson.
Frank Olson. Yeah, his story is a major red flag.
What happened to him?
Okay, so Olson was this biowarfare expert working for the CIA, right? And in 1953, they dosed him with LSD.
What? Without him knowing?
Yeah, as part of an MK Ultra experiment.
Wow. And then?
Well, he had a bad trip.
Oh, no.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And then he died.
He died. Wait, so these experiments, they weren't just unethical. They were straight up dangerous.
Yeah, this wasn't just messing with people's minds. It was potentially deadly.
Wow. So what happened? What's the official story?
The CIA, they said he committed suicide, jumped out of a window.
Are you serious?
Yep. But Olson's family?
Yeah.
They've always said it was a cover-up.
They murdered him to hide MK Ultra.
That's what they say.
That's intense.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was suicide, the fact that they pushed him to that point.
Yeah.
With their experiments, that's
heavy stuff.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, how many other stories are out there?
Right. How many we don't know about.
Yeah.
Olson case, it shows just how far the CIA was willing to go.
To protect this program.
Yeah. even if it meant like silencing someone.
Wow. This whole thing is just like a huge mess of ethics violations,
Yeah.
cover-ups.
Big time.
So did they like ever face any consequences, like for Olson's death or for like all the other stuff?
That's where it gets even trickier. The CIA, they were good at keeping secrets.
Yeah.
Like for years, nobody knew about MK Ultra.
Right, right.
But then in the 70s,
Okay, yeah.
things started to change.
What happened?
Well, there was this growing distrust of the government, right?
Yeah.
And like a bunch of investigations started popping up. People started digging.
So the truth eventually came out. Like who blew the whistle? Was it like a whistleblower or something?
It's kind of like a perfect storm. You had investigative journalists doing their thing, connecting dots, uncovering clues. And then you had some people inside the CIA who, I don't know, maybe they felt guilty or like they wanted to do the right thing. They started leaking info.
To the press.
To the press, yeah.
Wow, so like the truth will out or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
So what happened when like the MK Ultra stuff got out?
Oh, man, people were pissed.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Like outraged. The government was doing these crazy experiments on its own people.
Yeah.
Huge scandal.
Did Congress like do anything?
Oh, yeah. They launched investigations, demanded answers, accountability, the whole 9 yards.
So that's how it all ended. Public pressure shut it down.
Pretty much. It's amazing how powerful public opinion can be, right?
Yeah.
Like even when those in power want to keep things hidden.
So what did the CIA do?
Damage control.
Classic.
They tried to downplay it, you know, like, oh, it was just a small operation, no big deal.
Right.
But the document
Told a different story.
voting.
So they tried to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
But it was too late.
The cat was out of the bag.
So did anyone like face any charges, like went to jail or anything?
That's the frustrating part. They shut down MK Ultra, sure.
Yeah.
They made some like rule changes to prevent it from happening again.
Okay.
But nobody went to jail.
Yeah.
Nobody was held responsible.
Wow, they got away with it.
Basically. It's a classic example of the powerful getting away with, well, everything.
Violating people's rights, experimenting on them, even like contributing to Olson's death.
Yeah.
And they just like walked away.
It's messed up. Shows how hard it is to hold powerful people accountable.
Especially when national security is involved.
Exactly.
So it's a reminder, right?
Of what?
That secrecy, it can be powerful. Like even when the truth comes out, it doesn't mean justice will be served.
That's the truth.
So MK Ultra might be over.
Officially, yeah.
But it like raises questions that are still relevant, you know?
Like what?
Like how do we make sure something like this never happens again? How do we protect ourselves, you know, with all the technology and the surveillance? And
yeah, those are important questions. And we'll keep digging into those as we go. Like what MK Ultra means for today, you know?
Before we do that, I think we should take a minute to remember the victims of MK Ultra. These were real people. Their lives were messed up because of this program.
Definitely. Trauma, addiction, the feeling that your own government betrayed you.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a reminder, right?
Yeah.
That we can't just chase knowledge and power without thinking about the ethics.
Couldn't agree more.
Because when we do that, people get hurt.
It's a lesson we need to remember.
Okay, well, when we come back, we'll take a look at MK Ultra's legacy and see what it means for us today. All right, so we're back. We've been talking about MK Ultra, the CIA's mind control program, all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, a lot of like shadowy Cold War stuff, LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, all those methods they use, trying to like crack the code of human behavior.
Yeah, and we can't forget about Frank Olson and, you know, how far they were willing to go to keep it all under wraps.
Definitely a dark chapter, you know? Really makes you think about the whole like government power thing and the limits of like scientific experiments.
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious about the the aftermath. What's the legacy of MK Ultra? How does it like affect us today?
Well, it's complicated. On the one hand, it's like a total cautionary tale.
Right.
Like, don't mess with people's minds. And it shows how important ethics are in research, you know, especially with humans.
Yeah, definitely.
And because of what happened, you know, the exposure and all that, it led to like some positive changes, tighter regulations on like human testing and more transparency in the intelligence world.
So it's like MK Ultra, as messed up as it was, kind of pushed us in a better direction, at least when it comes to research and like government accountability.
Yeah, I think so. But it also had this huge impact on pop culture. Think about it. Conspiracy theories, books, movies, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like the whole Manchurian candidate thing.
Exactly. And it feeds into this like distrust of authority,
Yeah.
which, I mean, is still a thing today.
Yeah, for sure. So MK Ultra, it's become this symbol, like this warning about the dangers of unchecked power.
It's a story that really sticks with people.
It does. But beyond pop culture, are there any like practical takeaways for us today?
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons is that we have to be super careful about protecting individual rights, especially now, with technology advancing so fast.
What do you mean?
Think about all the new tech, right? Neuroimaging, brain-computer interfaces, all that stuff. We have to be aware of the potential for misuse.
So like MK Ultra 2.0,
Mm.
using technology for like mind control.
It's not impossible. That's why we need ethical guidelines, oversight. We
Right.
can't just let these technologies run wild.
It was a little scary to think about.
It is. But the thing is, we can't just ignore these advancements either. We need to figure out how to use them responsibly.
Makes sense. You mentioned ethics earlier. I think it's worth
Mm.
emphasizing that.
Uh,
Like we can't just focus on the science or the tech. We have to think about the human side of things.
For sure. MK Ultra shows us what happens when we forget that.
So going back to something you said before about transparency and accountability,
Hmm.
what can we do, like as regular people, to make sure our government doesn't, pull another MK Ultra?
Well, first off, we gotta stay informed. Pay attention to what's going on. We can't just sit back and assume everything's fine?
Right.
And we gotta demand transparency from our leaders, hold them accountable, support a free press. They're the ones who can dig into stuff and expose wrongdoing.
Yeah, it's on us to make sure our government is, working for us, not against us.
Exactly. It's our responsibility to participate, to make our voices heard.
Right.
Like you said before, knowledge is power. And the more we know, the better equipped we are to fight for what's right.
I agree. We can learn from MK Ultra,
Yeah.
and work to make sure nothing like it ever happens again.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been intense, to say the least.
Yeah, it has, but important.
Definitely. We hope you found it informative and maybe a little thought-provoking. And hey, if you want to learn more about this stuff, check out the National Security Archive. They've got tons of resources.
We're doing great work over there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.